Alright y'all, welcome back to the channel and to some more turkey patterning. And I've got a combination out here today that we haven't tested yet, and a choke, and I guess a load too that we haven't seen in a little while on the channel either. But it's one that should do pretty well together. I see no reason why we shouldn't be able to get a good pattern out of this. Obviously the load we've got and the choke we've got have both patterned well in their own tests. So put together, we should hopefully see a pretty decent result today. So for the shell I've got out here today, I brought out some of the Winchester Longbeard XR loads. These are the 12 gauge, 3 inch, 1 7/8 ounce of lead 6s, moving about 1050 feet per second. So we've definitely got a load out here today that we know shoots well. So this combination should do pretty well together. And speaking of that combination, the setup part that we've brought out here today is the Remington 1187 with this choke. This is a Cabela's Blackmaxx 660 constriction turkey choke. Now we have done a little bit of testing with this with both the Herder's TSS and a number of different Salt Creek custom lead loads, and it's done pretty well across the board. So I'm thinking we should have a pretty decent shot at having a good pattern today through this choke. So as for the test, everything is the same as usual. I have the turkey target set up downrange at 40 yards. I also have the chronograph, so we'll be able to get our speed and see how close it is to the box post at 1050. So let's get you guys a view of this target, and I'll head up and take the shot. We'll glance at our chrono real quick, and then we'll go down range and see how it performed. I've got some decently high hopes for this one, so let's head over here and shoot it and see what kind of results we can actually get out of it. Okay, so that shell gave us 1207 through the chronograph. The box is claiming 1050, so we definitely saw quite a bit above that. Now, that's not entirely unusual. From what I can remember, those Longbeard loads usually shoot a little bit above box posted velocity, and especially since we have a longer 28-inch like field barrel, it does make sense that we would see a little bit higher velocity. So 1200, not out of the ordinary, and typically turkey loads do seem to do pretty well around that 1200 feet per second mark. So nothing that I'm concerned with up here, or nothing that's out of the ordinary, but how did it actually shoot down range? Let's go take a look and see. Alright, so now we're down range here at our 40-yard paper, and this is what we got. Now, we do obviously have a dead turkey. There are a number of them up and down the spine there, so absolutely would have knocked that turkey down. Now, I do think the main core area of the pattern was a touch to the left, but as you can see, if we move in closer here, it's really not a super even or super uniform core area. There's definitely some gaps and voids right over there and right down there and right up towards the back of his head there. So definitely not, you know, a super amazing core area. Absolutely good enough to take any bird that walks through that. There's no doubt about it. But looking at the overall pattern here, it's not a super amazing necessarily Longbeard pattern. It's not terrible by any means, but we've definitely seen a little bit better. And I did forget to mention earlier, but we do kind of have to take note that it is 35 degrees outside, and lead has the potential to pattern a little bit worse in colder temperatures. So for what little bit it might make a difference, we should at least take note of it, I suppose. But as for the rest of our pattern, we do see some just sporadic stuff around the bottom of the paper there and around this right edge. There's some, you know, splotchy, sporadic edge of the pattern going on here. And overall, although the pattern is not terrible by any means, it's definitely not the best we've seen out of these Longbeard 6s, mainly because it's not necessarily really uniform. There's definitely a lot of splotchiness in it that I don't really prefer to see in my patterns. So I think it's kind of a mixed result on this one. Definitely not terrible, far from the worst we've seen, but not quite the best we've seen out of a Longbeard shell either. And I think I was hoping for a little bit better than that, or thinking we should see a little bit better. If that's what you had to run, it would absolutely do the job for you. So definitely good enough on this one, but just not quite the best we've seen either. Okay, and here's the wad we got out of that shell, and as you can see, it almost looks perfect as far as damage goes on it. It almost doesn't even really look like it went through a choke, but you can barely see a little bit of scuff marks on it from where it did go down through that choke, but no rips, no tears, anything even close to being like that. Now, we did see this one pedal open up farther than these other ones, definitely, but as you can see, nothing stuck down in there. No problems, no tips of these pedals that look like they caught on anything going out of that choke. So overall here, maybe this one pedal being quite a bit more open than the rest might have contributed to a little bit of the unevenness, but nothing that I'm too concerned about as far as damage to the wad that would have caused a weird pattern goes, that is, on this one. Alright y'all, well, what do you think about that performance there? Definitely good enough to take out and get a turkey with, there's no doubt about that. It would absolutely do the job, but it's not the best performance we've seen through this choke or with the Longbeard 6s either. So kind of middle of the road on this one. But at the end of the day, good enough to get the job done, but I was hoping for a little bit more even and consistent of a pattern than that, I guess. But as always, leave your thoughts in the comments and let me know, is that about what you expected to see? Were you a little bit surprised? Were you hoping for a little bit better or expecting a little bit worse? And if you've tested this combination or any other shell through that Blackmaxx choke, what has been your results and how well or how terrible has it performed for you? Leave all that down in the comments and let me know. But with that being said, I've got a bunch more testing to film for y'all. We've still got some new loads and chokes coming, so stay tuned for all that. As always, we do have the channel Instagram as well as the mailbox where you can send stuff to the channel if you would like. All that information will be in the description if you're interested, but I'm going to get back to the testing, so I'll see y'all in the next one.